Hey, it's Mike Rowe, and I've got gas. Natural gas, that is. It comes to me through a series of pipes buried in the ground. Pipes that all too often get damaged by people who dig before calling 811. This causes real problems for millions of Americans like me who rely on natural gas to heat their homes and cook their food, but it's even worse for the people who hit the gas lines. Well, here's the good news. You don't have to be one of those people. Just call or click 811 before you dig and visit safeexcavator.com for more info. Mike Rowe here with a gentle reminder that civilization is held together by pipes, wires, and cables. It's true. There are over 5 million miles of gas lines, power lines, fiber optic lines, water lines, and sewer lines, all buried beneath your feet. And every 60 seconds, somebody digs into one. Look, if you're thinking about digging around, do yourself a favor and call 811 first, just to find out what's down there. Trust me, you don't want to find out the hard way. Call or click 811 before you dig and visit safeexcavator.com for more info.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
And we're back with Pastor Austin Hill, the First Presbyterian Church. Boy, a lot of big political tie-ins today with Christianity and politics.
Well, and I don't know if I should feel honored or embarrassed to be flanked by both the governor and the lieutenant governor.
Hey, man, this is an all-star lineup. Starting out with the governor, then Pastor Hill, then lieutenant governor, and then Pastor Hill again. Look out.
I'm sure you can watch your listenership have a nice big spike and then a drop and then another spike and maybe another drop. But we'll try to keep it interesting.
Come on, man. Come on. Yeah, Pastor Hill is our guest. What's your sermon about this week?
So we're continuing in a series entitled Showing Up and looking at different aspects of life where we are called to show up, to be engaged, to be present, and to continue to stay the course. This week, then, we're looking at how we are called to show up with our families, and especially thinking about our children. So the daily decision that is required to show up to our children, to be present. And there's a quote from that TV show Modern Family by Ed O'Neill. You know, he was
Al Bundy.
Yeah, he was Al Bundy with what was that show even called?
Married with Children.
Yeah, Married with Children. And then he's also
show, really,
I know, yeah.
I laughed at it.
And he's this terrible example of a father. And then he's in a more recent sitcom back, it started 10, 11 years ago, but Modern Family.
Much better show.
Yeah. And so they interview the characters there, and pretty early on in that show, he has this line that stuck with me. He said something to the effect of 90% of being a father is just showing up.
He's right. That's a great line. I hadn't heard
huge.
That before. I have heard that before. And it's one of the most true things ever. You know, too many fathers, and I put myself in this category. I'm going to buy $100 baseball bats. I actually did that one. I went and got my son when he was 8 or 9 years old a baseball bat that cost $100.
Yeah,
it didn't make him a better hitter, actually.
Yeah,
but all kinds. He never wanted for anything, but I was never there. I worked a lot. I was in sales, and my whole focus was bringing enough money to the house.
And we think, isn't that enough, right?
Yeah, and then I wanted to come home and sit at 8 o'clock at night. And he'd want to talk or something, and I just
exactly.
Let me veg out in front of the TV.
Yeah, and then we'll do it all again the next day. And so, in another, to me, it's been a profoundly impactful truth that I was made aware of a few years ago. 936 is the number. 936 weekends you have from the birth of your child until they turn 18 and go out of the house.
How many?
936.
That's really not that many.
It's not that many at all. And I read this book that talks about creating a visual representation of that. So for Sunday, actually, it's a little bit of a spoiler. We're going to have a jar, and I got $10 in pennies. And we're going to have 936 pennies in a jar just to see that every week. I mean, think about how quickly another weekend goes by.
Yeah.
And that's another penny that's out of the jar. Now, certainly we can be a parent. We can be an engaged family member after our children are 18 as well. And it's not that once your child...
By that time, they're not looking for that much involvement.
Yeah. And so, the thought behind that really is to make the most of all of those 936 weeks that you have. Because another saying that'll make it into Sunday morning that I forget the author off the top of my head, but the days are long, and the years are short. So in the long days,
Interesting.
you're exhausted, especially when kids are young. They're having a meltdown in the grocery store and whatever else. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, what is this life I've, consigned myself to? And all you wish is for your children to grow up. But the years seem to fly by. And before you know it, that 936 pennies is down to 200 pennies or 100.
Oh, I tell you why you're singing my song here. I remember looking at my son when he was 3rd, 4th grade. Oh, we got plenty of time. We got plenty of time. Turned out we didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't. And I know anybody feeling sorry for me when I tell this story, but my dad died in the 80s.
Yeah.
And they came and told me he was dead. And I felt this very strange and intense feeling, like I should feel something.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no real memory of the man, And so I never shed a tear when he cried because I didn't know him. I didn't really know much about him. I mean, we grew up in the same house.
Yeah.
Or I grew up in the same house that he
Yeah.
had. And I didn't have any, it wasn't good or bad or really anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just had no memory of closeness.
And I've found in my 30s, at least, that the busier I get and the longer my days are, the more I fill them jam-packed, it seems the faster life goes by.
Yes.
You almost don't even have time to slow down and think. You're almost just on autopilot. And so this idea of showing up, it's not just a physical presence, it's an emotional, mental presence as well, as you had alluded to. And that not only do we come home, but when we're home, are we present with our family?
That's another good point. Again, vegging out in front of the TV seemed to be my thing. But anyway, there is the other side of the coin. Who's going to pay the bills?
Certainly.
Who's going to have us, whatever kind of lifestyle you have, who's going to sustain that? Well, I am.
Yeah.
Because I can't expect God to show up at the door with a couple of bags of groceries.
Exactly. Yeah. Some more of those jars of pennies like I'm going to have on Sunday morning.
There you go.
And yes, and I think it can also be taken to the other extreme where, we see this sometimes where families are not saying yes to civic engagements because they're so overcommitted with activities for their children, going to ball games and all these kinds of things. When I was in sports, now, don't get me wrong, as a caveat, I was terrible at sports, but when I was in sports, there was not a single wrestling match that my dad ever went to because he was at work. Now I never took offense to that. I understood it was at 3 p.m. on a Thursday. His job was 40 minutes away. And so I had no expectation that he would be coming to my wrestling meets. Now it's probably a good thing anyway, because my record was 1-7 the 1 year I wrestled. So he wasn't missing much, but sometimes we can almost go to the other extreme where all weekend long we're at traveling teams, commitments, and then we're unable to be present in our communities as well. But I think the big takeaway, this is not to guilt families and not to say you should be doing more.
Yeah, that's right.
But more than anything, it's to cherish those days that we have and to make the most of the time that we have. Those early morning drives to drop the kids off at school, and the temptation is to just turn on a podcast or the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, there's 5, 10, 15 minutes for ordinary connection with our kids. And sure, nothing profound is going to happen in any one individual day, but we're thinking of long-term trajectories or those daily deposits that over time yield a significant interest. And those are the kinds of moments we can be looking for as we are investing in our children. And it's not just for those who still have kids in the home. I think for those of us who have adult children, or maybe we don't have any children ourselves, thinking about how we can be investing in other young people, I think this is an idea that truly has impact for our whole society if we would show up to those who are younger than us.
Well, life is never going to be perfect. And I know that especially fathers were focused. And now mothers, we have so many daycare centers. Mothers are just as focused and just as ambitious. And of course, there's a lot of ego involved, personal ego involved in these sorts of things. But it's a good thing to keep in mind and maybe talk about it at length sometimes. How are we going to give proper attention to our children? Emotional, psychological?
Yeah.
So we don't grow up strangers in the same house, because that story I told about my dad, I talked with a lot of my friends and they had exactly the same story.
Mhm.
Exactly the same story. I did try to do something about it when I was young. Whenever my son was participating in a sport, I was usually there in the bleachers.
Mhm.
Not always, but usually.
And I think even simple things like some of the most profound memories I have with my own dad and with my brothers were once, twice a year over a span of maybe 5 or 7 years, where we're on a Friday night and into a Saturday, he'd take us out to the desert. Now, remember, we grew up in Southern California. We'd drive 80, 100 miles inland and we'd go camping.
Sure, that's great.
And, it wasn't an all the time kind of thing, but we had a great time. We'd cook Spam and macaroni and cheese and drink a bunch of Dr. Pepper and Cheetos. And my mom probably loved being at home with just herself.
Yeah, that could have been. I will tell you, I got a little pop-up camper when my son was a teenager,
Mhm.
and I immediately regretted that I hadn't bought one 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
It was, no radio, no television, no
Mhm.
distractions. And I started to talk to my son and found out I had a really good little boy.
Yeah.
Now that's a terrific thing to discover,
Exactly.
And why did I have to discover that when he was 15 years old, 14, 15 years old, but that's the first thing that hit me. This is just the greatest. I'm getting to know my son.
Yeah, and I think there's really something to be said about time and space that's maybe out of the routine, that kind of snaps us out of our almost walking slumber
Right.
that we have throughout our day-to-day living. And that's, I think, more and more a challenge now when we have even more electronics and things that keep us connected all weekend long if we let them. I mean, it's so easy to just always have something taking our attention away from the people who are physically right there around us. So I think the more we can do that conscientiously. Now, as a pastor, I would just say a plug. You can always come back still from those camping weekends on Saturday night and make it to church together on Sunday morning. And for us growing up, it was always a Friday night through a Saturday night so that we were back for church on Sunday. And then you can be together as a family on a Sunday morning. So I think it's a matter of looking for those opportunities to connect. Sometimes in the ordinary day-to-day, where it's the drive to and from school, around a dinner table, or maybe if you've got evening activities, kind of like we do in our house, and we don't get a lot of family dinners, maybe it's a family breakfast. Then maybe it's some time while everyone's awake before you go out the door in the morning. But just those small, everyday, ordinary opportunities for connection. And then maybe once or twice a year, some of those fun, bigger, memory kinds of experiences where you can go somewhere and travel. And it's kind of putting all of those things together. But ultimately, the days are long and the years are short. And when we need to cherish those times that we have.
Is there a time when we just say, this is the life that God has given us?
Yeah.
This is where we're at in the world. I mean,
yeah. Well, I don't know, maybe you can relate to this, but I remember before I was married, let's say when I was a high school student or a kid in elementary school, and you always wonder what life is going to be like as an adult. You wonder, am I going to get married? Am I going to be a parent?
Sure.
What's my job going to be? And all of that seems so abstract, so in the future. And yet we grow up, so gradually and take on more and more responsibilities until the next thing we know, we are a parent or, we are in that professional setting. And I think if we're not careful, we don't even get a chance to actually reflect on the fact that we are in that future we had been envisioning for all of those years. And, this is the moment. This is, these are the times when we are raising our kids, and this is the experience of parenthood, kind of like what you were saying. And I think, are we giving ourselves a chance to stop and slow down and reflect on that reality?
I know your wrestling record wasn't that great. Neither was mine. I still love the sport. But coming up next is Mayor Matt Bemrick, and he was a terrific wrestler.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he told me that himself. He was, I think if he wouldn't have been an electrician, he'd been the world heavyweight champion. Brutus the Barber Beefcake or whatever one of those guys were.
That's amazing.
No, he never said anything like
Man, so here I am. I'm flanked now not only by the governor and lieutenant governor, but also the mayor.
You're playing an important role here today.
I'm surrounded. I'm in the company of giants.
Well, I don't think Christian ministers are anything to sneeze at personally, and
Oh, thank you.
I don't think anybody else thinks that way as well. No, I would like to admit here right now that the mayor never told me anything like that.
Oh, okay.
But he is a wrestling
Yeah.
fan, and he is a wrestling fan, which means he knows something as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, I think that the big takeaway for us in these last final minutes is to really think about whether you have children in the house or you don't. What's one way, even just this week, that you can invest in the life of someone younger than you? And maybe it's a matter of picking up a phone and calling someone. Maybe it's writing a letter or just an encouraging note in the mail, or maybe it's finding an opportunity to volunteer at a local church or at APHIS or something, and thinking about spending time with some kids, but that is always and consistently a need in our community to invest in the lives of young people.
Well, a few years ago, and maybe they still do, they had time with grandparents at the elementary schools. And essentially what it was is grandparents would show up and read stories to the kids. My grandchildren live out of town, and why I never started doing that, I don't know. I don't know if that's still available, but I'm going to take advantage of it if it is, because you're right, make some time for kids. Pastor Hill has been our guest of the First Presbyterian Church. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. The news is coming up.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and
health for helping me live my best life.
Divine Intervention at AM 1400 with Mayor Matt Bemrick.
Boss, head man, top dog, big cheese, a head honcho.
Call now, 515-955-1400.
That's right. That is the number to call if you'd like to ask the mayor, Matt Bemrick, a question or have a comment for the mayor. Either 1-955-1400. That's 955-1400. Or we're on StreamYard. The mayor and I both should be there. So if you go to my Facebook page, the radio station Facebook page at AM 1400 KVFT, you'll see a comment section. We'll see it, or I'll see it, and I'll relay the questions to the mayor. Of course, how you doing, Matt?
Pretty good. Very busy.
You doing all right? Pretty busy?
Very busy.
Well, I'm glad you had time to get in here then.
Yeah.
Glad you had time. So is this company down in Kansas City trying to screw our brains out or what? Didn't they buy the Warden Plaza? I mean, the city put it up for sale. They bought it.
Yeah, I mean, the city took possession of it. We basically just transferred the asset through a preliminary development agreement, also known as a memorandum of understanding, an MOU. You often hear us talk about those.
Yeah.
We never got to a final development agreement, like an official agreement. We worked off that MOU for quite some time. And then things went south and they missed some filings of different things for grants and different tax credits. And then it just seemed to keep dragging and dragging and dragging. And we ended up in court with them,
right?
Federal court,
which
they filed on us, actually. They didn't win. We counter filed and everything was dismissed. They tried to appeal. The higher court dismissed their whole case. Mark Crimmins is still doing some other things, and now they've listed it for sale.
They've listed it, so they've retained ownership.
Yeah, well, we transferred it to them in a typical transfer of property.
We couldn't just seize it. The city couldn't seize the property
and take it back.
And take it back because they did not perform as the contract required.
Well, again, we were working on it underneath an MOU, not a contract.
All right.
An MOU is non-binding.
Oh, an MOU.
We'd already transferred the property to them.
So an MOU isn't worth the paper it's printed on.
It's an intent of these two parties to move forward to a final contract. Well,
which they never did.
Which we were never able to come to terms on because they kept missing deadlines and missing times they were supposed to do things. But I do still need to be somewhat careful in what I say. Because there probably could be additional litigation. So,
all right,
I need to be somewhat careful.
I understand. That's fine.
I don't want to put the city in a position where I give them some type of, I make a comment that creates a benefit to them.
I understand that. I understand that completely. But it seems like, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier today, it seems like, is it KDG? Is that the name of the company in Kansas City?
Correct.
Okay. It seems like the company has backed away from its plan to develop the Warden themselves.
Yes.
And they are going to try now to force the city to buy the Warden Plaza at a profit.
That's where I need to be careful.
Okay.
We would not.
That's speculation.
Yeah.
We're speculating here.
That I don't believe we would pay them anything to take that building back.
$10.
I can't speak for the 7 council members because, 7 council members could say, you know what, we want it back because we want to figure out where to go next with this building. So pay them and let's move on and get them out of here. Or they could say, no, we're not paying them. And I'm not going to speculate on what those 7 people would agree to do.
Right. So their plan now.
I mean, I don't have a wand to just say, let's buy it or no, we're not buying it. It would ultimately be their decision. Now, I'd be more supportive of do not pay them a dime for anything.
Okay.
And we'll take it back through legal means.
Yeah.
Through the courts or through other potential litigation.
But that's off the table now, it sounds like.
What?
For the city to just take it back through litigation.
We can. There's a process to that.
Okay.
I would imagine that you will see us having some conversations about that, but most likely be in an executive session because property acquisition pending litigation can be done behind closed doors.
Well, they've certainly been a huge disappointment.
They have, and I had a lot of hope for them at first.
Yeah,
and it just they definitely seemed like they not just seemed. I mean, they had a history of taking buildings and doing cool things with them,
right.
But never in the form of KDG. They had always been partners with other firms that redevelop property.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like the brain guys behind some other big projects. And it just they just did not deliver what I felt they could have delivered.
Did they deliver it all?
Not really. No.
Yeah, that's right. I have talked
We actually got things done. I mean, we've gotten some grants to abate lead and asbestos out of the Wakanza Annex, and we've gotten some remediation money there, and we've kind of got a plan on how we could tear that down and do different things. So we've gotten some benefit as a community, but that's all because
what was the
of our
benefit to
labor.
our community again?
We got some mitigation money to take asbestos and lead paint and hazardous materials out of the Wakanza Annex.
Did we get that from the state or?
Yeah, well, I think some of it was federal, some of it was state.
Okay, just to get the asbestos out of
Yeah,
the
and that has to be done no matter what.
right.
Even if you were going to tear it down.
Yeah, asbestos is evil now, from what I understand.
Well, asbestos is bad, lead paint's bad, all that stuff's bad.
Okay, and the warden had plenty of that, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, a lot of that stuff.
So, do we get the lead paint out too, or?
What's that? Yeah.
Did we,
Oh,
that
well,
had to
it's
be-
being worked on.
it's being worked on as we speak, or?
Yeah.
it's
Well,
in the future. Or?
if you go by there, you'll see there's some action on the annex side, not on the warden side, but on the Wakanza annex side. So up there on, what would that be, 10th?
Okay. All right. Mayor Matt Bemrick is our guest. If you have a question or comment for the mayor, 515-955-1400. Who is that guy from? He's originally from Spencer, and he has a firm now. Matt
Brown?
Matt Brown. Yeah.
Yeah. Formation Group.
Formation Group. Thank you very
Yep.
much.
Matt Brown was an owner's consultant. So he worked for the city. He was never employed or helping KDG. He was helping the city make sure KDG was doing the things they were supposed to be doing, and he worked very hard trying to push them in the right direction. And he, if they were supposed to file something by February 1st, on the whole month of January, he was on them.
Right.
Hey guys, you got to file this, and they would go radar silent for a while, and then they'd come up with an excuse why they didn't do it, and so how that goes.
Yeah. It just doesn't sound like.
I mean, it was a tough gig for him because it was you think herding cats is a joke, but he was trying to herd those two cats around and make sure they did their job, and it was not an easy thing. I like Matt Brown a lot.
Good guy.
I would, if we need those type of services in the future here in Fort Dodge, I would definitely recommend we use him.
We were excited there at first. I talked with Matt Brown about being on the air with me every single week, so we could discuss progress. We never had a single conversation.
Well, there was never any really.
Yeah, there was never anything
to report.
I called him a couple of times. That's exactly what he said. He said,
Yeah.
we might as well, Michael, get a hold of you or some words to that effect if anything happens. And it's been a few years ago. But he was a great guy, so he doesn't work for the city anymore, obviously.
Well, he was a consultant. So,
He was a consultant.
Once the relationship with KDG had kind of gone to the wayside and we were not going to move forward and the city wasn't going to put any more money in or put any resources into it, it didn't make sense to keep him on the payroll as a consultant.
No,
So,
it doesn't. No,
yeah.
no, I'm sure it didn't. Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is. So, what is the city's plans now that we're here?
Well, I wouldn't say that we have a formal plan for the warden. I mean, we don't own it at this point.
That's right.
So I would say our plan would be to seek opportunity to own it.
And that doesn't include the 1.3 million asking tag, I guess.
Oh, it's 1.3.
I believe
I've been
it is.
trying to get that number for a week.
Oh, you got to call.
Where'd you get it?
Oh, I can't say on the air, but I'll tell you as soon as we go to break.
Okay. Did you just call the guy on the sign? Because I had a couple different people try to call the real estate company that has it listed, and they couldn't get a number out of them.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Here, I'll contact my source
Okay.
while we're on the air here.
No, that's
And-
fine. I mean, I don't. I'm glad you got a number because I wasn't able to get a number.
Okay. All
1.3 million for a building they got for free.
right.
Quite the deal. Quite the deal.
Well, that's what I mean. We seem to have gotten involved with a company that apparently had a good record, but boy, are they screwing us around.
I would agree.
Well, anyway. So you were busy all day and didn't get to talk to the governor or lieutenant governor?
I did not. I didn't make any of the meetings. So this has been kind of a crazy bid week for me. So I had a bunch of different projects that were pretty large that all bid yesterday and today. So the really large one I worked on all the way starting from last week, and then I was piecemealing the one that was due today, getting things lined up, and then today I had to finally put it completely together. So yeah, it took me it was a busy week.
Yeah.
And we were just kind of having a lot of different issues with the cold and stuff. There was certain jobs we couldn't really work on because of the element, the weather.
Oh, it's tremendous.
So I didn't want guys working outside if I could prevent it. So we were shuffling people around, and then we have one of our large industrial sites that we work on was having some issues with a project that they were trying to do kind of in-house, and they want to have it ready next week. Well, they were quite a ways behind, so we had to move a bunch of manpower to that job. And so it's been kind of a crazy week.
Well, probably got paid, didn't you?
Well, yeah, we'll do all right.
Well, it's always worth it then.
Yeah.
You hate to spend a lot of time, and I've done this, a lot of time and effort on a project and have it, here's your $5.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, the bidding world, I could not get either of these projects that I just spent well over a week putting together. I mean, somebody could be lower, or you just don't know.
Yeah.
Customer could have a preference, whatever. So,
okay.
But yeah, I might get around 50% of what I bid, about every other one.
But that's about normal for any group, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. Well, I mean, the market's pretty good right now, so nobody's really dying looking for work. There's quite a bit of work out there. So that tends to kind of make the competition pool a little shallower. When it's really dry out there, you'll get contractors coming out of the woodwork from around the state, even from out of state. But when Iowa, which I feel Iowa's been in a pretty good boom the last couple of years, we just aren't seeing the out of town contractors coming into the market as we were in the past.
Iowa's been in a boom, really.
I kind of think so. I mean, in the construction world, talking to other contractors, whether they be mechanical, electrical, plumbing, or general contractors, everybody's had some pretty decent years. COVID year was weird, but leading up to COVID and then in 2021, everybody seemed to do pretty well. We did really well in 2021.
Yeah.
We were right back to pre-COVID numbers.
Was most of your work in this area, or?
We typically are within about 60 miles typically.
Sure.
Most of our large industries within, 10 to 20 miles. And then we have a couple of pretty good customers that are down south towards Ames area.
Do you do a lot of hog confinement work? It seems like
not a single one.
Not a single
Never
one.
wired a hog confinement. Done some chicken stuff. We do quite a bit of work for Per Stage up there by Eagle Grove. We've done quite a bit for them.
They've really been kind of an economic boom up there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A lot of people have jobs up there, I know.
And they're paying pretty well.
Yeah. It's always better when you have a little money in your pocket. It kind of affects your mood,
Yeah.
Hey, I could actually buy something. I understand that kind of work is always going to be tough work. It was tough. I remember talking to older men. They're mostly gone now, but guys who started out the Tobin packing plant way back after the Second World War, and they would describe it as man-killing work. But they bought houses, they paid for houses, they sent their kids to school,
kids to college, all that stuff.
They did. And they were happy. And some of them retired when Hormel left town. Some of them went up to Algona to work for a few years, but a lot of them just retired in their 50s.
Yep.
I got enough. I'm good. The kids are gone. So, there's that's a huge reward, I would think. Huge reward.
Mm-hmm.
and Prestige can do that for people as well.
Yeah, I don't know if the pay scale is quite what it was back when you
It
had
isn't.
unionized labor
No,
inside
no,
of a Hormel or some of those
guys were making $10-12 an hour in the 70s.
Yeah, and you know they had guaranteed overtime, and they had different bonus things incentive wise and stuff. So yeah, it was just a different time.
It really was.
Labor had more of a say in what was going on to the labor than nowadays. You just don't see labor having a voice anymore.
No, you don't. Ronald Reagan finished off. Well, he broke the unions, then Bill Clinton finished him off with NAFTA, but that's, over my pay grade. Not much I can do about that, or any of us, but that's pretty much what happened. Matt Bermick is our guest at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. So we've been having budget meetings over at the council.
Yep.
And those are tedious, I know. It would be for me. Anyway.
I've been doing it long enough now, and I've been through enough budgets that I just it's not as complicated for me anymore.
Okay.
When I first got on the council, I mean, I wanted to learn all this stuff, how the levies worked, which ones could be used for which things. I wanted to understand, the insides and outs of each department and what drove their revenue or what drove their tax asking. So, but once you've been through 16 of them, you kind of get a stride, you can kind of, okay. The one thing I always like to look at is what's the revenue projections? What are any reserve balances or capital balances that are being carried over from the previous year? And then ultimately, what's tax supported versus revenue supported?
Right.
So
I did get to talk with Governor Reynolds for a few minutes today, and I got to talk with Lieutenant Governor Gregg as well. And right before that, I talked with Dr. Peter Fisher of Common Ground, Iowa, which is kind of a left-of-center group. Dr. Fisher is a brilliant man and a great guy. But he was talking about tax cuts that are planned in this year's legislative session. Is any of that going to affect the city?
Well, most of those, I believe that they're looking at are income tax.
That's the biggest hit, they think, because income tax is 50% of the revenue the state takes in.
And I think some of the tax cuts they're looking at are also related to people's retirement.
Yeah, older people my age.
Being taxed as state income.
So I'm all for that.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. I don't know the right answer. I don't know the ins and outs of those tax cuts yet. I try to pay attention to them, but
have we learned to live within the limits of Governor Branstad's property tax cut a few years ago?
We talk about the squeeze of that each budget year, so it keeps getting reduced down what they backfill. So if we don't see growth and valuation through new construction, values increasing in the market, in the real estate market, that we'll get a crunch point somewhere in here.
Yeah. Mayor Matt Bermick is our guest, and we'll be back with the mayor right after the news. This program brought to you, as always, by Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters. Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters is at 612 South 32nd Street here in Fort Dodge. You may contact Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters by calling 576-6481 or online at www.ftwater.com.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's the wrong mayor sweeper. I'll get the real one out here in a minute. 429.
Watching TaxSlayer calculate your refund feels like
KVFD. Call now, 515-955-1400.
That's right. You want to call that number, 955-1400 now, especially because the mayor is here. So if you have any question or comments for the mayor, now is the time. I think we're going to be all right as far as the money to pay for snow removal this year. Of course, February is always a bad month. That's my birthday month. It's just the lousiest month of the year. It really is. But we haven't had that much snow. We had the one big storm.
Been too bad.
No.
Yeah.
So we just roll that money over into next year's fund then if we don't spend it, or I suppose that's a wise thing to do.
Yeah, we budget our typical year no matter what. And then if we don't use that money, then it goes back in that road use tax fund, and that's where it stays.
Where does that money for come from? I mean,
road use tax?
Road use
you
tax.
pay for it when you get gas at the pump.
Okay. All right. So it is kind of funneled through the state to us.
Yeah.
Okay. That was my real question. So yeah, that's that's good. We're getting something back from that. Price of gas is up there.
You buy gas, you pay a tax. The tax money comes back to the city to help do a lot of different things with the roads.
And I accept that.
Yeah.
When I had my own truck, I mean, I paid gas tax,
and
fuel tax, and all kinds of things. Of course, I was driving 80,000 pounds down the road, probably breaking up the roads every now and then.
Very possible.
And the hog haulers, they could haul 90,000. I don't know what they paid, but it was pretty good. But again, we got to have roads and we got to have snow removal and all those things, especially in this part of the world. 955-1400 if you have a question or comment for the mayor. Let's talk about broadband because it's my favorite subject.
It is a good one. So they unveiled the name, the brand, which is broadband's going to be named Fort Dodge Fiber. They got some logos out. They got some marketing campaigns that will kind of get kicked off and get out there and start getting the public energized.
Sure.
I think sometime this spring, you'll actually be able to do an early sign up for service. You'll be able to sign up and
let me know. I'll be the first one over there.
When it goes by your house, then they'll drop it in and get you online.
All right. Well, we won't be able to get online in the spring.
No, not this spring, but they'll sign you up so that way when they're coming by and they put the fiber lines out in front of in the right of way out in front of your house, then they would do the drop to your house.
Yeah.
From there and bring it into your residence, your premise. And then once it actually goes live, then they would bring the equipment in, hook it up, and
that should be in the fall, do you believe?
Some parts of the community will get brought up sometime in 22, and with the hope that everybody would have access by the end of 23.
Oh, really?
And I don't know the game plan of where they're starting. They got to build, basically, if you think of it like a trunk, they got to build a big trunk line through the community. And then from there, then they branch out to each little area, and then they bring it back to the main trunk.
Who's doing all the work?
We haven't bid it all yet.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, Bemrick Electric.
No, that's not
really your kind of thing.
We don't put in like direct infrastructure. We put in like the stuff inside of a plant or inside of a building.
Yeah.
Or your house even. We don't typically get involved in the like actual infrastructure side of it.
Okay.
There's companies that they'll have directional boring machines and all kinds of stuff.
I've seen them do that.
That's not in our wheelhouse. We do have fiber optic techs that do.
That's right. You do, don't you? Yeah.
But it's typically inside of a facility.
Mm-hmm. So these firms that are bidding, are most of them from Iowa? Or?
Well, I don't know. We haven't bid it yet, so I don't
haven't
know who's
even bid it at all.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I'm sure that's
hopefully pretty soon.
I'm sure that's highly specialized work.
Yeah. I mean, those pieces of equipment, those big directional boring machines are very, very expensive.
Oh, yeah.
They'll come from all over the area. Iowa, they could be some out-of-state ones even.
Yeah. Well, that's a different kind of work, and I'm assuming that not many people have invested that kind of money in those big machines or trained their people to use them. I mean, that's
I mean, you definitely have to know what you're doing when you run one of those things, because I mean, you're driving this stick the actual rod
Mhm.
that pushes underground. Then they drag a conduit back with it. You got to maneuver that around things. I mean, you got to go under this gas line, over this water pipe. Some of it they dig up to make sure that they miss.
Yeah.
Like a big gas line or a big water main or something like that. So they'll have to what they call pothole. So they'll dig a hole right where they know there's something they want to miss, and then they either go above it or below it or in between things. So
Sure.
it's a complex system to run, and you got to know what you're doing.
That's amazing. You know, we used to have to dig up everything. Everything was a trench, you know, no matter what it was. But now again, you have these directional boring machines. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, we still trench a lot of stuff. But again, it's not really infrastructure. It's something.
Well, you do the
inside of a
trenching.
plant.
That's,
Yeah,
you know,
we do trenching. We do trenching like across somebody's backyard if
Sure.
they want to bury their power lines or put, a line out to their back garage that
Right.
might have been above ground. They want to put underground. So
yeah,
and we do that kind of stuff all the time.
yeah, that's kind of a different deal, though.
Yeah,
I could run a trencher, I suppose.
it's not real tough. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, 955-1400. If you want to ask the mayor a question, do we have street repair or installing new streets on the agenda for spring?
So the council here, once we get budgets done, they'll start working on capital improvement planning and prioritizing where they want to spend money on roads. Monday night, we did award a contract to Castor for the West Side Road.
Jordan.
Yep, going from the Hawkeye Avenue Bridge up towards Starlight. There's a bunch of work that's going to get done on that road. So we did award that. We have awarded a big stormwater project to Rash that will start in the spring. That's out by the high school. And there's some other infrastructure that'll happen with that project. So
First time I met Jordan Castor, he was about 16, 17 years old. Boy, he's made something out of himself.
Yeah.
You know, he came up.
he does a lot of good work around
He
here.
does, and he's not afraid. Boy, he's not afraid to work. I'll tell you that. That guy is a worker.
Those guys that do concrete work are not afraid of work.
No, and they're pretty well built most of the time.
If you don't want to work hard, you don't want to do concrete.
I did I did concrete work, flats, and all that in block work for 2 or 3 years, and that was it for me. I hung it up.
It's tough work.
I have the famous story, of course, I probably told you and others. I was up in Burt, Iowa, building a swimming pool with some other guys.
Did it hold water?
Well, I don't know. I think they closed it shortly.
So
Anyway,
it didn't hold water.
we were building the pool house block and that sort of thing. And the guy I was working with was just a total jerk. And I came in one day with just a rip-roaring hangover, and he knew it. So he just made my life miserable. And at noon, I went down. This is how I got in the radio business. At noon, I went down to the local cafe and called up Iowa Central and rolled. And in the fall, I was in Iowa Central. Because this was enough fun for me. Really.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's way.
Not doing this the rest of my life.
No, well, it's heavy work, and you got to be, you can't.
I mean, there's not a lot of block layers out there anymore.
No, there isn't. Well, it's, the poured walls came along, and that was kind of it. But, yeah, that's you don't want to you don't want to drink tequila until 2
Have you ever been to a pool without water?
A pool without water?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why I do that. Are you talking?
It's
about,
a dumb joke.
It's a dumb joke.
Yeah.
I know there was some people when we still had the Olson Park pool used to try to scale the fence there. In the Olson Park pool.
Yeah.
I think they've been drinking too.
Probably. Yeah,
So-
it's not unusual for the police to catch some people trying to night swim back in the day at Expo or Olson. I don't know if they've caught anybody at Rosedale. I've never
I don't
heard.
know. I don't
I've
know.
never asked.
Right. Yeah.
I would imagine that somebody's tried to sneak in there to take a little night swim. But
Oh yeah. Well,
I know they've caught people at the country club going swimming at night and sneaking in there to take a dip
Yeah.
after probably having a few cocktails or something.
Yeah. Well, that's usually what
Yeah.
happens.
But don't swim in a pool without water.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Okay, what's the joke? Don't
It's
swim.
just a dumb joke.
Well, tell me anyway.
I'm not going to tell you.
Is it obscene?
It is not. You probably wish it was.
Yes, I do.
It's a dumb joke. So I got this friend, and if you're having like a party or you're at a bar or something and there's no music, because he likes to listen to music when he's out
Mhm.
having fun, he'll say, have you ever been to a pool without water? Because that's what it's like when you're hanging out and there's no music.
Oh,
You get it?
I got it.
Is it that funny? Not really.
I
But he's
do.
not really that funny of a guy.
I do. Well,
He's not. But he likes to listen to music when he
Right.
drinks a beer. So like if he comes over and sits in my garage in the summer,
There's no music.
he'll say, "Have you ever been to a pool without water?" And then I know that he wants me to turn on some music.
You have weird friends.
I do have some weird friends.
Well, I get the metaphor. I describe it as a metaphor rather than a joke.
Well, but it just turned into a joke because
he said it every time.
Yeah, and if we go somewhere, like let's say we went down to Fireside or something to have a beer tonight after I get out the show.
Yeah,
he would immediately say, "Have you ever been to a pool without water?" It's like one of those broken record jokes that it never was funny when it started, and it's never gotten funnier.
I see you're wearing your 49er hat here
Darn
regularly.
right.
Okay, so who are they playing? Niners and Rams?
They got the Rams
All right,
Sunday at I think 6, 5:30 or 6. Yeah, the first game is Kansas City and the Bengals.
I really wish, doggone it, that Buffalo would have got it. They beat Kansas City, but
I'm not a big Buffalo guy, but
well, I'm not either. But I'm tired.
I'd like to see the Bengals make it just because my brother-in-law is a Chiefs fan, and the Chiefs beat the Niners
Which
3 years
brother-in-law?
ago. Matt Dutcher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Chiefs fan.
he's a Chiefs fan.
Shame on him.
It's okay.
No, I'm a big fan of Patrick Mahomes, and he had a terrific boy. I'll tell you, he turns on the last 3 minutes of that game, and it was one of the. Even though I was very disappointed in the outcome, it was one of the best football games I've ever seen.
Yeah, I really last weekend every game was a good game.
Yeah, Rams versus Buccaneers.
Yeah.
And I think the Buccaneers were favored, but they didn't pull it off.
Niners took down Rodgers again. He's never beaten us in a playoff game.
Really?
Never beaten us.
All right. Well, that doesn't break my heart since no, I guess that was the Bears. He was yelling at the fans in Chicago that I own you. And I thought for a minute it was Minnesota, even though he owns them too.
But he can't seem to beat the Niners in the playoffs. So
Minnesota is so bad.
There's a lot of talk he's not going to be a Green Bay Packer next year. So we'll see where he ends up.
Well, that very well may be. They're talking back out west where he came from. Kyler Murray.
I think he grew up a 49ers fan. If I read right.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right. I think Matt Stafford. These guys are older guys. Matt Stafford's been years with the Lions.
Yeah,
and he finally got a chance to show what he can do, and he really stepped up to the plate. And I'm glad to see that.
Oh, we've beaten LA twice this year.
Have you?
The Niners, yeah. I believe we played them twice. I think we beat them both times. So, but they're still favored to beat us. I think by 5
Yeah,
points.
they are. And I heard a rumor. Well, I heard it on ESPN. I don't think it was a Stephen A.
So, do you call news a rumor? So you heard it on ESPN News, but you heard
no, it's
think
sports talk opinion
Oh.
stuff.
Oh, okay.
I never listened to Stephen A. I think it was with Mike Greenberg and that crew that he's with.
Are you like me? I'm interrupting you, but do you just want to reach through the TV and smack Joe Buck to death?
Oh God,
he's annoying.
He's really high on my list of people I'd love to meet so I could beat the hell out of him. I'm
He's
old
just
now.
annoying.
Oh,
it's like
God.
Shut up. I just want to. I just. Almost everybody I know has the same feeling. I'm like, who likes this guy enough that he stays on broadcasting? He's just terrible.
Oh God.
That Niners Cowboys game.
Thanks for giving me a
was
headache.
one of the most lopsided commentating games I've heard in a long time. It was literally like they wanted the Cowboys to win and they weren't hiding it at all.
Not a bit.
And they just couldn't believe that the Niners were beating them at all, And it was literally felt like they were like, well, what they need to do, because we want them to basically win, is this and that. And I was like, God, I feel like I'm listening to like a national broadcast of a Hawkeye game, because Hawkeyes always seem to get that same kind of deal. Where,
Dolphin? Oh.
Not Dolphin. No,
All
Dolphin's a big Hawkeye guy, so he's
sure.
always taking the position that what the Hawks need to do to get back in the game or to keep the lead or whatever. But when you're listening to those national broadcast guys on TV, whoever the Hawkeyes are playing them, typically anybody in the Big Ten, it's like they're rooting for the other team.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Dolphin and Podolak. Yeah, I still can't believe Podolak got busted for looking at some woman's boobs. Can you imagine that, ladies and gentlemen? A man looked at a woman's boobs and he's out of here. Anyway, what I was going to say.
Sorry, yeah.
Have you disengaged now because of the
Yes.
boob remark?
No, you just it's like the pool without water. It never gets funny.
Really?
Not really.
All right. But I was going to say that some believe some believe that the Niners are looking at Aaron Rodgers because they're not that crazy about Garoppolo.
We got Trey Lance coming up.
Who?
Trey Lance, our backup.
Yeah.
I mean, we drafted him.
That's right. And Rodgers is what, 37 years old? He's not going to.
Rodgers is like 40.
No, I don't think he's quite that old. But he's late.
Siri.
Well, okay. It's late in his career. And he does have a couple of good years left. He's probably not Tom Brady, who's 44 and going to be 45. But as a Niner fan, how would you think about having Rodgers in your backyard?
I don't know. He kind of annoys me. But I mean, if he came to play for the Niners,
he's not funny either, huh? It's
no,
he
just kind of annoys me.
It's like, yeah, I've been dissed by the mirror on radio.
What was I gonna do? How old is Aaron Rodgers?
How old is
Aaron Rodgers? 38.
Oh.
Aaron Rodgers is 38.
I'm right. You're wrong. I feel justified.
Yeah, I thought he was 40, but definitely not. He looks like he's 40.
Oh,
he looks older than Tom Brady.
He looks 10 years older.
Well, that stupid mullet he has makes him look.
What is that?
Older. I don't know. It's terrible.
Hi, I'm Aaron Rodgers. I'm rich. I used to go with Olivia Wilde so I can grow a mullet. Well, what was that over the line too? It's the cup of coffee joke.
No, I just laughed at the same time. I just took a drink of that pop.
I don't know. Of course, it would be cool to be a pro football player, but I never got close. I think I got close as I ever got to. Well, I never got close.
Never got close.
No, nobody ever considered me. Anyway, Mayor Matt Bermick has been our guest. Apparently, I'm unfunny, so I'll let him go home.
Oh, you're pretty funny, but it goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, I know.
And then back in the other one.
Well, you have all those liberals you don't want to.
Oh yeah, the libtards.
Yeah,
the dummy crats, whatever you like to call them.
I never called them anything like that. I called them the mafia.
Oh yeah,
the mafia. Right. All right. Thank you for being here, Matt.
You bet.
All right. Have a great weekend, Matt. And well, I guess it's only Thursday, so you got another day to work. The news is coming up at 6 or 5 o'clock. Thank you for listening. I'm out of here. I'm losing my ability to speak.
If you're a gearhead or not, you'll enjoy the Under the Hood Car Show every Saturday afternoon from